so long and I'm tired. The lies, the cheating with men, with his bodyguard at some point.
From Ja Rule's wife exposing him for cheating with his own bodyguard to Benzino's partner posting screenshots that expose him for liking men to Trina dropping just 4 words alluding to French Montana sexuality. We're looking at times rappers' wives and partners expose them for being gay. Let's start with Ja Rule. Few things in hip-hop hit harder than a prison release comeback story. Jeffrey Atkins, the world knows him as J. Rule, walked out of federal prison in 2013 after serving time on gun and tax charges. He had served his time. He had his music. He had his wife Aisha, his high school sweetheart, the woman he had been with since before any of the fame. By every public account, Ja Rule had built exactly the kind of loyal, grounded love story that hip-hop rarely gets to celebrate. And then the internet opened its mouth in the lead-up to what was reportedly an MTV documentary called Married Life After Prison. Quotes started circulating online that were allegedly attributed to Aisha Atkins. They were explosive.
So long and I'm tired. The lies, the cheating with men, with his bodyguard at some point. I'm done.
The alleged lines were visceral and specific, the kind of detail that makes people stop scrolling. They spread across gossip sites at a speed that the pre-Twitter internet could still manage. Within days, the narrative was everywhere. Blog after blog was running the story. Comment sections were erupting. And the person at the center of all of it was a man who had just finished doing time and was trying to rebuild his life in public. Ja Rule was not going to let that sit. He took to Twitter with the kind of clarity that left no room for interpretation, calling the claims false lies made up by some non-factor website clowns, and making abundantly clear that he and Aisha were still very much together. He was emphatic, he was angry, and he was consistent. The denial was picked up by multiple outlets, including The Independent and Huffist. The couple remained married in the years that followed. No documentary interview from Aisha ever surfaced to validate the alleged quotes. No tape, no receipts, no corroboration. What's striking about the Ja Rule situation is how little evidence the internet actually needs. A plausible context, a man coming home from prison was enough to make a rumor feel real. The story had emotional logic, even if it had no factual foundation. Ja Rule has repeatedly said the people spreading these stories are trying to damage his family. By most accounts, that family survived intact. The rumors resurfaced periodically over the years with additional embellishments, but they never produce a single verifiable source. The Ja Rule story is about an anonymous internet fabrication, a wife who never actually said what the gossip sites claimed. She said, what comes next is a very different situation. A real woman, real social media, and alleged receipts in the form of screenshots that the entire internet could read for themselves. Benzino, Raymond Scott Benzino, former co-owner of The Source and a longtime figure in hip-hop's industry infrastructure, found himself at the center of a very different kind of exposure in late 2025. And it came from someone who had sat at his kitchen table. Altha Hart, the mother of one of Benzino's children and his former long-term partner, posted what she claimed were actual text message screenshots on Instagram. These weren't vague insinuations or secondhand whispers. She was putting alleged evidence directly in front of the public.
From your knowledge, Carlos, am I gay?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know you to be gay. That's why I want to, and that's been my right. So,
first of all, she's not in her right mind.
He did not go line by line through the allegations. He did not offer a detailed rebuttal of the specific claims. His position was that what she was doing was illegal, and he intended to address it through the courts. Whether or not any legal action actually materialized, the social media moment had already done its work. Screenshots don't disappear. The conversation had already spread well beyond Instagram and into Hot 97 and hot new hip-hop coverage. What makes this case stand out is the specificity. It's not about fashion choices or prison proximity. It's about named individuals and alleged direct admissions. Bobby V himself has had his own turbulent personal history in the press over the years, which only added layers to the public reaction. Benzino has consistently maintained a straight public identity across decades in the industry, and as of this video, he has not directly confirmed any part of what Altha Hart alleged. But in an era where the screenshots of the story, denials often get buried 3 posts down. The image sticks, the rebuttal doesn't. If Benzino's story is about a partner going public with what she claims are direct receipts, Dr. Dre's version of events is something far older and far more mythologized. Born not in a messy breakup, but in the middle of one of the ugliest wars hip-hop has ever seen. French Montana's case is different. The woman who barely said anything ended up saying more than enough. French Montana, Kareem Kabooch, French Montana, has the most diplomatically delivered entry on this entire list. Thanks entirely to how Trina chose to handle whatever she knew or thought she knew or felt about their time together. The two were publicly associated around 2013 and 2014, and the nature of their relationship was a subject of significant curiosity in the gossip ecosystem at the time. When Trina appeared on The Breakfast Club and in other interview spaces to discuss their history, her language was remarkably careful and remarkably loaded. She said they'd never really dated. She said they were just friends. She said she didn't want to expose him. She called him a different type of individual. Karen Civil covered the interview in additional detail, and then she stopped talking, and what she had already said just sat there open to interpretation in a comment section that was happy to do all the interpreting for her. When you are a famous woman who was publicly linked to a man, and you say on a nationally syndicated platform that you don't want to expose him, people are going to ask what you're protecting him from. The internet did exactly that. French Montana's response was measured. He pointed to the timeline of his divorce as context for their association, and dismissed broader speculation as a standard noise that comes with celebrity at a certain level. He has continued presenting as straight in his music and his public life, without deeply engaging the speculation. But Trina's words have never fully gone away. What she chose not to say has followed French Montana for over a decade. In the age of social media, the things people choose not to say are sometimes the loudest. French Montana stories build on carefully chosen words that left everything open, but not every situation involved wives or partners speaking out directly. In some cases, it was friends, insiders, or even the rappers. Own actions that raise those same questions. Dr. Jar. The rumors around Andre Young have been baked into hip-hop beef mythology for so long that they've almost become folklore. This story doesn't begin with a wife or a girlfriend. It begins with Eazy with Death Row Records and with the ugliest chapter of West Coast rap's golden age. During the height of the Death Row versus Ruthless Records feud in the 1990s, Eazy took shots at Dre and diss records that called out his sexuality in explicit and ugly terms. Language designed not just to embarrass, but to destroy. At the time, these were read as pure battle rap venom. The kind of thing artists said to humiliate rivals in the most visceral way possible. But the rumors didn't die with the beef. They got new oxygen when Suge Knight, never a man shy about making controversial claims, began giving interviews in which he alleged that during a confrontation involving Tupac, Dre made a specific statement acknowledging bisexuality. When challenged, Suge's accounts have varied across different interviews over the years, and his credibility as a source is, to put it charitably, complicated. The Daily Beast documented the surrounding context extensively. Figures like Mob James and Reggie Wright Jr., both connected to Death Row's inner circle, have periodically revisited the topic in their own interviews, keeping the story alive in hip-hop's oral history. None of these accounts come with documentation. None involve a wife or a partner making the claim. What they do involve is the Death Row Machine's long tradition of using sexuality as a weapon in beef, something that extended to multiple artists and was as much about power and dominance as it was about truth. Dre's silence on the matter has been absolute. His response has essentially been his career, an unbroken run of production credits, business empire building, and a public life that never engaged the rumors directly. What they do reveal is that hip-hop beef in the 90s was never just about music. It was total war, and every possible weapon was used. Dre's case is defined by enemies weaponizing rumors in a war. Lil Wayne's situation is different. What sparked the speculation wasn't a diss record or an interview, but something the cameras actually captured and broadcast to the world. Lil Wayne. Here's a situation where you can trace the exact moment the rumor was born, because it was captured on camera multiple times. In the mid-2000s, during the height of Cash Money Records' dominance, photos and video footage circulated showing Lil Wayne and Birdman sharing a very enthusiastic lip kiss. The Rap City footage, the backstage videos. They were real. They were documented. And they were deeply confusing to a lot of people in a genre that had very rigid ideas about how men were supposed to express affection toward one another. Wayne was young, genuinely young, when he joined Cash Money. He came up under Birdman essentially as a child, and the relationship between them was, and remains, one of the more complex mentor-protege dynamics in rap history. The kisses, when they were eventually addressed publicly, were explained by Birdman in a 2021 podcast appearance as an expression of deep paternal affection. He described viewing Wayne as a son. The man said he thought it might be their last time seeing each other, given the risks of street life. And in that emotional context, the evolution, the jewelry, the flamboyance, the artistic persona that pushed boundaries, all of which created a fuller picture that certain corners of the internet ran with, But the core of this story has always been a mentor and a protege who loved each other like family in a genre that didn't have a framework for what that could look like. Wayne's story is about affection that was visible and documented, real footage that people decided to interpret a specific way. Young Thug's situation is almost the opposite. The choices that generated questions were completely intentional, and he's never once apologized for any of them. Young Thug, Jeffrey Williams. Young Thug didn't wait for anyone to come for him. He came for the conversation himself over the course of his career. He has probably addressed the question of his sexuality more directly, more consistently, and more interestingly than almost anyone else on this list. The fuel for the rumors was never hidden. It was deliberate. Young Thug wore dresses, painted his nails, called male friends terms of endearment in his lyrics, and showed up on the cover of his Jeffrey mixtape in a floor-length gown. He was rewriting the visual language of rap masculinity in real time, and the culture had very loud and very divided feelings about all of it. A 2019 Big Boys Neighborhood interview had him addressing the public judgment he was navigating. And then more recently, his appearance on the Pivot podcast gave him a wider, more receptive platform to say what he's been saying for years. That alone would have been enough, but he didn't stop there. He went on to say he had no problem with the LGBTQ plus community. His rejection of the label wasn't about rejecting the community. It was about being precise about who he was. He said he had pioneered the aesthetic, the painted nails, the dresses, the gender-fluid presentation, and that he had passed the style down to a new generation of artists, including Playboi Carti and Lil Uzi Vert. He acknowledged that public pressure had caused him to dial certain looks back over time, but insisted the expression was always artistic, never sexual. He has described himself in multiple settings as the straightest man in the world. What's fascinating about Young Thug's situation is that it inverts the usual structure of this conversation entirely. He wasn't exposed to anyone. He was the one setting the terms. The rumors were a response to his own creative choices. Choices he has never apologized for and never walked back, whether you believe him or not. The conversation he started is one that hip-hop is still actively having. Young Thug created the conversation around himself through deliberate artistic expression and has faced it heat in every time. Birdman, on the other hand, has been part of the same visual conversation as Lil Wayne for nearly 2 decades, and he has had to step up and address it entirely on his own terms. Birdman, Brian, Baby Williams Birdman, has a chapter in the story that is inseparable from Lil Wayne's. The two men are linked by the same footage, the same photographs, and the same cultural confusion that erupted when those images hit the internet. But Birdman has faced his own independent line of questioning beyond Wayne kisses, including a 2016 moment where a single ambiguous one-word answer to a pointed question got interpreted in ways that clearly got under his skin. In a Hot 97 sit-down, he addressed the gay rumors directly and without